Alrighty, welcome to episode 1 of Film Study with Kirtan Amin. I, of course, am your host, Kirtan Amin. And on this episode, we're going to be discussing, first off, the drama happening in Alabama right now. We're going to be discussing all the transfer players leaving. We're going to be discussing the question is if Nick Saban is really retiring after this year. And lastly, we're going to get into are they going to be able to be as dominant going against the new SEC opponents, including Texas Longhorns and the Oklahoma Sooners. So let's kick this off. In just 2 weeks since their college football playoff loss, sadly to the Michigan Wolverines, they have lost 18 players to the transfer portal. Yeah, you heard me right. 18 players have decided to transfer out of Bama. And again, this is Alabama. These aren't no 2 to 3 star players. These are some really solid 4-star players and some 3-star players. These are good talents that haven't been able to see the field or for other reasons have chosen to leave Alabama. Now, that brings up the question, is this because there is dysfunction in Alabama? Could this mean that Nick Saban is leaving and all these players want to go play for a head coach that also has some prowess to the game like Lane Kiffins of the world, like Kirby Smarts of the world? Or does this just mean that these players were planning on transferring out early in the season, but lo and behold, Alabama steals the 4 spot from Florida State, and so these players just wanted to play in the college football playoffs? Well, to answer your question, I'm going to go with the latter. I personally believe that these players chose to transfer prior to even being known that Alabama was going to the playoffs, and so their intentions were at the end of the season, I was going to transfer out. But then all of a sudden, Alabama sneaks into the 4 spot, and now you get that once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to go play for a national championship. And so everyone does not declare to enter the transfer portal. But now, after the 27-20 loss in overtime against the Wolverines, all these players that were previously saying, yeah, I'm probably going to transfer, they all declare the transfer relatively in the same time period. Because, of course, if you make it to the New Year's Six games, your window of opportunity to leave is very small. And so then all these players declared in one moment. So to answer that question, the reason why we're hearing an uproar from all these players leaving and heads are turning because of all these transfers heading out, this is just a normal thing that should happen as they made a New Year's Six game, they lost, and so now after they lost, players are choosing to transfer out. Now, let's talk about one of the scariest questions in Alabama fans right now. Is Nick Saban deciding to retire after the 2024 year? So, as of this recording, as of January 6, 2024, Nick Saban is 72 years old. And October 31st, 2024, Nick Saban will turn 73 years old, becoming one of the oldest coaches in NCAA right now. Now, personally, I believe Nick Saban should retire. This is coming from a Georgia fan. This is because all the years of him terrorizing our team, terrorizing the SEC, I want that to be over, but also because he deserves so much attention, so much praise for what he's done. Nick Saban, without a doubt in my mind, should go down as the greatest head coach of college football of all time. The GOAT of college football. And the reason for this is because of all the championships he's won, all the BCS bowl games he's won, all his accolades and everything he's done for the Alabama program. He deserves to go out and ride off into the sunset like a little pony. And, I mean, some people will say that he probably won't leave. Some people are saying that he's going to go out whenever he wins on national championship. But I believe he's come to the age where he should be able to retire. He should be able to just relax now, enjoy and vacation for a little bit because of everything he's done for really college football as a whole. But, of course, this is scary for all the Alabama fans out there as they're wondering what direction are they going to head in now that Saban will choose to retire. And let's go on the hypothetical. Let's say Saban says, at the end of the 2024 season, I'm declaring my retirement, sayonara. Well, as a Bama fan, what are you supposed to do about that? And, well, here's the answer I'm going to give you. I believe that two things are going to happen. I believe Alabama will leave, or my bad, I believe Nick Saban will leave Alabama in good hands. Whether that be helping hire a new coach, whether him picking like his offense coordinator or someone to precede him later on, he's going to find something to keep all these Alabama fans in secure hands. And let's talk about the first thing. If you're really scared about Alabama not being that good of a team, don't be. And for one reason, look at the talent you're pulling in from high school. As of right now, Alabama has secured the second highest recruiting class, just below the Bulldogs. And to top off that class, they have a incoming quarterback named Julian Sayin, 98 rating, 5-star recruit, and a top cornerback in Jalen Mbakwe. Mbakwe is going to also come in and probably be an instant impact. And again, if Nick Saban leaves, who's going to be the leader? Who's going to be this person to calm the locker room, to keep everyone in check? Well, we haven't even talked about Jalen Milroe, who is deciding to return for his 2024 year. Now, Jalen Milroe, he's been through the ringer. Jalen Milroe had a tough loss week 2 against Texas in Alabama, which raised speculation if he was the right guy. He got benched against USF in a really disappointing game for Alabama, and then he fought his way back for his starting position, and from there just kept winning. Beat Auburn on last-second play, handled business against Georgia, he truly did, and was able to secure himself a 4 spot and take the number 1 seed Wolverines to a overtime matchup where they lost on a 4th and goal. Now, that player he's going to build in the transfer portal, or he's not going to build in the transfer, he'll build as a player, he's going to build as a talent, he's going to get better, he's going to get stronger, he's going to get faster, he's going to become a leader in that locker room. So, whatever anyone's doubts is about Jalen Milroe, there shouldn't be any. Because I believe next year he's going to come in with a chip on his shoulder. He had this whole big press interview talking about how Bill O'Brien didn't believe in him when he first got there, how they told him to switch positions, how they told him he shouldn't be a quarterback. He already had that little motivation, and now he's going to come into next year with the chip on his block saying, look, I made it, we were so close, it's my mistake, I tripped on the offensive lineman, I'm going to get us back there, I'm going to get us back to winning. So, with that being said, I think Nick Saban will make sure Alabama is in a good position. And now speaking back about who's going to take over the reins of Alabama if Saban leaves, we got lots of interesting candidates. Let's start off with probably the most obvious one, a name that's always been circulating. Was he going to go to A&M? Was he going to switch and go somewhere else? And of course, I'm talking about Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin, if y'all don't know, is the head coach of the Ole Miss Rebels, and he honestly had a very successful year this year after capping off a New Year's Six win against Penn State, and his team looked dominant. That Ole Miss offense looked powerful. Jackson Dart led the team into battle, and they looked great. Imagine what Lane Kiffin could do if he has multiple 5-star, 4-star players that are trained, that are skillful, that he can just rotate in and out. So just in case your starter gets a little tired, you rotate in a guy fresh and just as skillful as the starter, and you keep rotating these players in. Lane Kiffin could build a serious program. It could become a very strong talent like Nick Saban, and he can lead Alabama to win. Other players that are other candidates that are notable for taking his position is Steve Sarkisian. Now, I know this is very unlikely. I just had to throw this out there because, as we know, Sarkisian he's an offensive mastermind. He, of course, just led the Texas Longhorns to the college football playoffs like Nick Saban, but led him to the 3 seed and not the 4. And he beat Nick Saban in home, let's not forget, in Tuscaloosa this season. But there is a chance that he goes over there, and it's because of the fact that he's grateful for everything that Saban gave him. Saban gave him a second chance after all of his alcohol addictions, all his self struggles, and Saban looked at that and said, you know what, we're willing to keep you on, just clean up yourself, become a better person, and that's what Sarkisian did. So of course there is a chance that Sark goes over there, although highly unlikely. There is a possibility. And then really, those are your two front runners. I know there's talks about what's his name, Glenn Schumann. Glenn Schumann. There's also talks about him heading over to Alabama, but only time will tell. And of course, we don't even know if Saban will retire yet. So lastly, I wanted to talk about how is Alabama going to fret against these new opponents in the SEC. Of course, like I said, including the Longhorns, including the Sooners, and so I just wanted to take a deep dive into their schedule real fast. So as of now, or as of the 2024 season, of course, Bama will have to play Georgia in Tuscaloosa. They'll have to play LSU. They'll play Auburn in the Iron Bowl, and they'll play Oklahoma in Oklahoma. So, how dominant are they really going to be? Well, let's start with, out of the 4 games I gave you, let's start with the first one. Let's talk about Georgia. I believe that Alabama versus Georgia will be a great matchup. It's in Tuscaloosa, but I don't see a team beating Georgia this season, to be honest. I think Georgia starting quarterback Carson Beck returning. I believe they are going to be a dominant force. We saw what they did with a lot of opt-outs against Florida State. They handled business. And so I believe they're going to be a dominant force. I think they're going to go into Tuscaloosa and do what Texas did, and they're going to win in Tuscaloosa. Now against LSU, I believe that Nick Saban will be able to train his team up, and when they play LSU, they'll be ready for LSU. I believe they'll come out with a victory there. When they play Auburn, rivalry games are so hard to predict for the sheer fact that it's a rivalry. You don't know how players are going to play. Whenever it's a rivalry game, you always give it 110%. You always go that extra mile to win the game, as we saw last year with Oklahoma versus Texas in the Red River Showdown. And lastly, you have Alabama at Oklahoma. Now, this game, I was speaking to some of my other friends. I spoke to my co-host Kieran, and he said there might be a possibility that Alabama gets a blowout win. There is a chance that Alabama really goes into Oklahoma, as Oklahoma is losing Dylan Gabriel this season. They go in there and they handle business. Well, personally, I don't believe that. I believe with Oklahoma heading into the SEC, Oklahoma is going to get a refresh. They're going to get a new start, essentially. They're going to go in there, find their quarterback, find their leggings, and they're going to take a walk. Essentially, bear with me here. They're going to take a walk in this new park. They're going to feel it out, and when it comes to playing Alabama down the road, I believe that game is either October, November, they will be ready for them. Oklahoma will be a team that people don't expect to be as good as they are going to be, but keep this in mind for whenever that game happens in October, November, sometime over there. Remember that I'm going to say I believe this game is going to be a 7-point game. I believe the Sooners are going to come prepared for Alabama. And so, to wrap up this segment, if you're scared as an Alabama fan of what's happening next, don't be. Alabama, they're bringing in a top-tier recruit. Saban is staying for the year. They will find their way back. Alabama always does. Alabama is always the team that you are scared to face. So, personally, I believe Alabama will be right back to where they were. They're going to keep the train rolling, and they're going to keep the gears going. After Saban leaves, we'll talk then. We'll see. We'll feel it out. We'll see what's going on next. But as of right now, don't worry about Bama. They will be back. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Go watch the other podcasts. Go watch Kieran's podcast. Go watch Beyond the Snap podcast with both of us. Like, subscribe, and comment down below any questions, and I'll see if I can get to them and respond. Thank you.